Welcome to the Power of One. Today, I am going to be speaking with Mr. David Thornton. Mr. David has been through a very horrible ordeal. He lost his sister to gun violence, but at the hand of his nephew, which is his sister's son. And his nephew also, unfortunately, murdered numerous other people. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
David, let's speak about your family and your family dynamic, your siblings, and how it was when you were coming up.
Well, it was seven of us growing up in Wilmington, Delaware, raised by a single mom. And the truth is that we, five of us, continuously stayed in trouble, and two of them did not. Um, we spent a lot of time in prisons and penitentiaries, and we just became products of our environment, unfortunately. Um, we turned our lives around later on in lives, but it was tough early on. Mom raising seven kids, it was tough.
Tell me about your siblings. What are their names?
Oldest one is Byron. Then is Charles. He lived in California. Byron was in Delaware. Uh, Carlton lived in New York. My sister Wanda lived in Boston. I'm here in Ohio. Youngest brother Michael lived in North Carolina, and youngest was Christine. She lived in Philadelphia.
You and I connected because Christine actually lost her life to gun violence. And you and I connected and we stayed connected, speaking about the legacy of your sister. There, unfortunately, you come to learn that the person who actually murdered your sister was her son.
Yes.
And you've learned that he also murdered other individuals. Can you walk us through that timeline of the murders that he committed? And like, I don't know if you have the years, and just walk us through that timeline first.
Okay. He went to jail. He spent, I want to say, close to 9 years in jail for a robbery murder. Him and a couple other guys that went to rob this guy that was selling drugs, and subsequently, the guy got killed. Keith was the lookout man, so they sentenced him to 13 years. He spent 9 years in prison.
And Keith is your nephew.
Correct. Christine's son. Matter of fact, he is our only child, and he got out in this Christmas of 2020. And I distinctly remember the next oldest brother Charles died of COVID. That was a COVID year, and myself and my oldest brother Byron and Tina, we call her Tina, we went to Florida for in January, right after Keith got home, and we vowed to kind of stick together because we was the only three left at the time. And while we was in Florida, we had a conversation, and I remember Tina was kind of vague about some stuff Keith was doing. Come find out that he had already committed two murders in Philadelphia. Um, Now, we spent like a week in Florida. We got back. This was in January. In February, there's more to the story. And if you want me to get into it, I can. Um, but they found her body February the 8th. Actually, she was murdered on the 6th, which was a Saturday. And I remember distinctly because the because of COVID, the Super Bowl was that Sunday, and we always place a little bet on the Super Bowl, and so she was found that Monday morning at work. So she was in the building for like Saturday at noon till Monday morning till they found her.
Mm.
But she always had said to all her friends and myself and my niece, who she was real close to, she says, if anything happened to me, it's my son.
Mm.
So the lead detective on the case, we talked and we both came to the conclusion that was violence in the house. Because I would distinctly remember a time that I was going to send for her to come up here, and she was scared. She went and got a hotel for a few nights, and she says, I can't be in the house with him. Now she wouldn't say verbatim what was going on, but I can surmise by the fear that it was violence going on in the house. And come find out that Monday, February 8th, I never forget it. I got the call from my wife, and my daughter called me, and they found her in a place of work, shot in the back of the head.
Mm. Now he committed other murders after his
Yes,
mom.
yes. He most notably he killed the lady at Dunkin' Donuts.
Mm.
He robbed her, shot her in the head, and then he went down Delaware and committed three. So total, he has seven murders,
Mm.
seven murder cases, and the last case he had was a Rite Aid drugstore in Delaware, where he robbed the lady, he pistol whipped her, but she had the wherewithal to put, I guess it's a tracking device now they use when they put money in the bag. They put a tracking device in there, and that's how they caught him.
Mm. That is so horrible. I did do a little bit of research, and I see that there was a 28-year-old. Her name was Leslie, and that happened on 5/15, and that was a Metro store in Delaware.
Yes,
And then it was Ronald Wright. He was 42 years old. That happened in Delaware on June 5th.
yes,
And then your sister, please forgive me, your sister, and that was in February, that was in Philadelphia.
correct,
And then, so then we had the 40-year-old is the one that was at Dunkin' Donuts.
correct.
And that
Yes,
was June of 2021. And he violated parole April 27th of 2021. Um, and then, wow. And a judge let him out.
correct. He spent 30 days in jail,
Mm.
and they would not violate his parole, so he got out and continued more crime.
Did your nephew suffer from mental illness?
When he got home, he was different. So I don't know what happened within the 9 years he spent in jail, but when he got home, he was totally different from
Before
what.
he went to jail, was he a respectable young man? Was he like, I guess we'll say normal for lack of a better word?
Yeah, he was. When I would come to Delaware and see him, hey Uncle David, how you doing? And this, that, and the other. And I mean, he was cool. And he went to jail for 9 years, and something happened. I don't know. I can't explain it. He just snapped and just you know
So when he came home from prison, he went to go live with his mother, your sister.
correct.
And how shortly after when he came home did your sister contact you, or did you communicate with your sister for her to indicate something was going on?
It wasn't long at all. When he got home right around Christmas of 2020, a couple weeks later, we talked 4 or 5 times a week. And she says, David, something wrong with my son. He's not the same person. And I says, well, maybe, he might, because he's been locked up for so long, maybe he might, bounce out of it. But he went from bad to worse.
Mm.
And, and I believe in, along with detectives and everybody she talked to, that, it was some stuff going on. And I'll never know. Right. I'll never know. But I believe in my heart of hearts that it was some stuff going on in the house.
But she never indicated, she just indicated to you, if something happens to me, it's my son, but she never
Correct.
indicated, exactly what was going on.
No, because I would implore her to, because he had a probation officer in Delaware, and I was like, Tina, I said, you need to call him and get a restraining order put against him, or just report him, and they'll come remove him from your house and this, that, and the other. And she's like, no, he's my son, and I'm gonna deal with it. And I'm like, okay, and she never
How did,
did.
how did that affect you, knowing after you finding out about her being murdered and then her saying, if something happened to me, it's my son? So do you like, did you ever think to yourself, oh my goodness, I just should have told her, just come on. I didn't know it was that severe.
Um, I tried to get her to come up here, and she wouldn't come. And actually, we got to an argument about that. I'm like, you need to come up here. She said, well, I got my job and this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay. I said, just be careful. And so when the incident happened, I already knew who it was. There was no question, no doubt in my mind who did it. There was no doubt.
Your nephew is
Yes.
apprehended in Delaware.
Yes.
Has anyone from the family spoken with him?
No.
Has anyone from the family attended any of the court hearings in Delaware?
They went once, and the case got postponed. So the short answer is no.
Okay. Okay.
I am waiting till her case comes up, and then I'll be there. But
In Philly.
but to go to yes, but to go to the other folks' court dates,
And I'm
I'm,
sure it's probably going to be a little while because he's had, what, about two or three homicides in Delaware and the same, about two or three, maybe two or three homicides in Philly.
correct.
So we see this kind of stuff on TV all the time. Just like unfortunately, there was a mass shooting in Maine. And today, what is today? October, is it the 26th of 2023? Am I correct?
Yes.
So I get my phone is blowing up, and I'm hearing about a female who was riding on the bus with the bus driver. She has no words with this bus driver. She does not know this bus driver. She gets off the bus. She pulls a gun out her bag, turns around, and she shoots this bus driver 6 times. And he
Wow.
passed away. Does not know the bus driver at all. And I know this from speaking to the inspector in the Northwest section of Philadelphia. Mental illness is real. And we have to see what we can do to be able to get people help. But like you said, your nephew coming out of prison, something happened and there was no help. Do you know if your sister tried to get help for him and noticing that change?
I don't think so. I think she was more or less trying to make sure he had a roof over his head and the basic essentials. Um, and it's hard. It's hard. Because she still has to go to work, and she's got to provide, and she's got to do all the other things. And it is hard. Because folks, still have to go live their lives, and
Mm-hmm.
and um, it's one thing I believe in needing help. Is another thing about getting help.
True.
And Um, I think she was just happy that he was home. You know, she
Mhm.
hadn't seen her son in 9 years,
Yeah,
and she tried to to provide his basic essentials, and she knew something was wrong. And I guess she probably thought maybe he'll bounce back to his normal self. Being in jail 9 years, that's a stretch.
right.
But he went from bad to worse.
How was Keith as a child?
He was a good kid. I mean, he was just a normal, young kid. He did normal kid stuff. He was a good kid. And somewhere along the line, he just snapped. And I saw pictures of him, uh, the police pictures that's online, and I'm like, who is this cat? He's not my nephew, but that's who he became.
Mhm. Yeah. And what message would you have for all of those family members who have lost a loved one senselessly?
You know, uh, Speaking of help, I had went to I think a psychologist. I think he recommended the lady for me, and that helped me because it was hard. So for those folks who or endured similar situations to me, it's okay to talk to some professional folks. Because I was assumed with this for a long time. And it was hard. It still is hard. I've gotten a little bit better with it now, but the first 6 months, 9 months, a year, it was this total consumption of you know dealing with this, and you know finally, I think for me it was when it came to a conclusion that he was guilty. Then I was like, okay. But the first, it was hard. So my suggestion would be, when there's help available, accept the help because it helped me to talk to for some professional people. Of course, I talk to my family, what I mean, but they're not licensed psychologists, what I mean. So that helped me. That helped me get through a day at a time because it was hard. It still is, but it's gotten better. But the first year or so, it was tough.
And David, you are in a very unique position because you lost your sister to gun violence, but at the hand of your nephew. Your nephew committed many murders. And we see this stuff on TV all the time. And I don't know about other people, but in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what kind of family did he or she come from to be able to take the life of someone? How do you feel about one of your family members committing so many murders?
I went through a plethora of emotions, anger, um, lack of understanding. You know, this doesn't happen to me, and should I would have could have done something differently, and it's just a gamut of emotions that you know hindsight's always 2020. I should have done this. I should have done that. Um, it's just I just don't. Yeah, I'll say this. Living in fear is not conducive to having peace. And the one thing that I took from this is if I'm living in fear in my own household, I have options to do something about it. And will it curtail the violence? I don't know. But at least I was proactive in getting rid of that fear out of my house. And that was something that we talked about. Hey, when I come home, this is my domain. And I'm not living in fear in my own house. And so if that is going on, then some things I can do to curtail that. Excuse me, will it stop the violence? I don't know. You know what I mean? But at least I can say I try to do all I can. Then the other hand is, whoever thinks that their son will kill their mom.
Are you doing something to keep your sister's legacy alive? And are you also doing something to help? Like you said, you will not live in fear in your household. Are you doing something to educate people that sometimes it could be our family members who commit heinous crimes?
I think my legacy and my remaining days on this earth is going to be a reminder of, to be proactive, especially when I can foresee violence coming my way. Right. And so, I go around, I'm starting to write a book dedicated to my siblings, and, just to keep the awareness up that, hey, it can happen. I am not exempt from stuff happening. You know what I mean? Life comes at you in all different ways. And, I just need to be prepared to the best of my ability of the possibilities of negative stuff happening. So just to be proactive and, talk to folks, and, this is what I've went through. And this is this is what I went through. And, it has a therapeutic value to it. When I can sit and talk to people that's been through what I went through, it's really powerful.
So I want to say my condolences to all of those who lost a life at the hands of Keith Gibson. There was a total of 6 murders, and I believe he is facing 41 felonies between Delaware and Philadelphia. But our condolences to all of those who are suffering because they've lost a loved one at the hands of someone else. And like David said, please get the help that is available, the free help that is available to you. And time does not always heal all wounds. And David, my condolences to you, because I know this road is just beginning for you. And I just can't even imagine what it's going to be like to sit in a courtroom to see your nephew who murdered your sister, which is going to be very heartbreaking. And I'm sure you will have sleepless nights, you and your siblings. But again, my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Sometimes we have people in our families who make horrible decisions, and it affects us, even though they are our family members. But know and understand their decisions are not condoned by all family members. Peace and love to all of you who are mourning.